Welcome back to another episode of Trading Secrets. Today we are joined by reality TV personality, activist, entrepreneur, New York Times best-selling author, former professional athlete, producer, and podcast host, Colton Brown Underwood. By the way, I had to cut that list short. There's a whole hell of a lot more, but this guy has done it all. Many of you know Colton from his time spent with Bachelor Nation, having been a contestant on The Bachelorette, Bachelor in Paradise, and being the leading man on season 23 of The Bachelor. In 2021, years after his time as The Bachelor, Colton shared with the world that he was gay and came out. He showcased his trials and tribulations through his own Netflix series, Coming Out Colton. And the years since coming out publicly, Colton met and married his now husband, Jordan, who I got to meet. What a beauty. And the two of them embarked on a journey of becoming parents. He is an advocate for the LGBTQIA community, a philanthropist, and has leveraged his success to give back to matters that have impacted him, his community, and loved ones through the Legacy Foundation. Today, we are going to catch up with Colton and discuss his career journey from The Bachelorette to today and his journey to becoming a daddy through fertility. Colton Underwood, thank you so much for being here on Trading Secrets.
I need you to follow me around and just do that lead as I walk through doors.
That
was great.
Let's be honest.
I'm ready to run through a brick wall for some introductions here.
I'll be honest. Let's just, you know what? Let's take a trip down memory lane. That's kind of what I did in 2018.
When we were on the
show.
My hype man.
I was your hype guy, man.
Probably the reason they ended up signing me for Bachelor, even though you were in the running too. You were like on your call with production, probably interviewing and being like, Colton. And I'm like, You were my hype man.
Oh, man. It was good stuff. And
yeah.
I kind of want to talk about some of that stuff because you and I have like sat down, but I don't think we've like really sat down and talked about that time in like, I don't know, either years or forever. And like what just in general, what a wild flashback. Like when I met you, I think you were 25, now 32. Like where the hell did time go?
I know. I think that's what a lot of people forget is like that show. You're like 25 when you're signing up for it. You're at like a weird age. Typically, you don't have a lot of money. Yep. And also you're like, don't have a great grasp on who you are and what you want to do. And for me, even more so, just coming out of like football for so many years, like I didn't have a social life. I didn't have like the relationship maturity to even be in a position to be on a show like The Bachelorette, let alone becoming The Bachelor. Yeah. But like, it was a fun time. Like, that's what you're supposed to do, shows like that when you're 24, 25, 26.
Yeah.
Like that's the time to say yes to fun opportunities.
Exactly.
But what a ride.
What a ride. I mean, the liability and risk, like I was 29 when I did it, but the liability and risk at doing it at 25, 26, that's when you should do it. But like it's much higher because you're still like developing into yourself. But I'll never forget when we got out of the hotel and we were in that lobby and it was you in my limo. It was Chris, the Harlem Globetrotter. Yes. And then Wells, I see you guys. I'm like, I am in deep shit here. The small greaseball Buffalo banker. But I want to talk to you before we get into that time, because we have some funny behind the scenes stories I want to talk about and just get your take on it. As an NFL player. So in 2023, average salary, $860,000. Percentage of athletes that claim bankruptcy within 5 years of the NFL is actually one of the lowest of all pro sports. It is 15.7%. So I'm curious through your journey, like how I know you were a practice player. Did you also get signed? What did the financial business side look like of your journey as an NFL player?
Well, to start, so I signed as an undrafted free agent with the Chargers for a signing bonus of $3,000.
Oh my God.
I turned down a 49ers offered me when Harbaugh was there, I think $35,000 signing bonus, which was much higher, obviously. But when I evaluated the roster with my agent, the likelihood of me making that roster was slim to none. Okay. And there was an opportunity. My opportunities were better with the Chargers. So that's why I took like an initial pay cut, which ended up paying off because I did stay on practice squad. Okay. That first season, I think I was on practice squad. I got cut, signed with Philly for literally a week when Chip Kelly was there. Oh, yeah. And then returned back to the Chargers and finished out the season on practice squad.
Okay. So as a practice squad player, like in a year, what can you make?
Well, so I think what's important, like when you're an athlete, you only get paid during the season. So like you don't get like this paycheck through like the entire year. It's only when you're actually in season. And it's like for us, I think my weekly paycheck after taxes or something was like close to $5,000.
Okay, gotcha. So
it was like 8,600 or something was like my weekly payment.
Okay.
On practice squad, you make a little over 100,000.
Oh my God, that's just not. Practice squad is different than average salary. That number that I just rolled off, but I think the conception or the perception is you're in the NFL. You're a millionaire coming into the Bachelor at times. Yeah. And did you like it from a money perspective?
Yeah.
Did you have money going into the NFL? Was everything self-earned? Like, what was just your relationship with money, like going into the NFL and into the Bachelorette?
I didn't have much. I mean, my parents did really well for themselves, and I had sort of like an allowance in high school. But the whole thing was, as long as I'm playing sports year round, I never have to get a job. So I played basketball, football, and track, and then I got my my allowance. They helped me out, but also like they didn't pay for college. I was a full scholarship athlete.
Yeah.
So then, and when I was playing football, our stipend was like $850 a month from the football program at Illinois State. So I had that, but I didn't have a lot of money. I mean, it wasn't like, and once I hit college, I was independent. So I've been independent since I was 18. So like my parents don't send me money. They didn't send me money in college. Like every once in a while they'd help with like nutrition or come and take me out. Typical parent stuff, right?
Sure.
And they visit you on campus.
Yeah.
But I didn't have like them writing me checks.
Okay, interesting. I'll never forget. We had dinner at, I think it was like maybe when the first episode aired, we had dinner at your place.
Yeah.
And I remember your dad making a comment, and he's like, no one, and I mean no one, has done as well or will do as well as my son, who still has never had a job in his life. And I'll never forget that comment. It was hilarious. And the dichotomy with your family with that was just
they still tease me that I don't have a job, because the running joke is I asked after, and fast forward a little bit, after my Raiders injury, I looked at my dad that we had like a long court settlement. So as soon as like that Raiders settlement hit, I looked at him. I was like, I just need a year off.
How did you get it? What's the settlement about?
I injured my shoulder.
Okay.
And there was some misdiagnosis going on.
Okay.
And we just had like, through arbitration, just had to like go through and reach an agreement.
And did that, when you finalize that agreement, did that end your career?
Yeah,
that injury?
I was advised by the Stedman Clinic in Denver that
Okay.
if I got hit in my shoulder in a specific point, that I wouldn't be able to lift it over my head anymore.
Oh, jeez.
So I ended up getting surgery,
Okay.
getting 3 scopes done, and just like cleaning it up and then just calling it quits.
I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask. Can you share what the settlement was or no?
It's all laid out in your contract. So
Okay.
so like how that happens is like when you sign a contract. So I was at that point signing a third year NFL player's contract.
Yeah.
It is allotted for however many games that injury would have had you miss.
Okay, interesting.
And then when you go through an arbitration process like that, I mean, 1, it took a year
Okay.
to even reach a settlement.
Yeah.
And then 2, there was just like some discrepancies in
How many
MRI
games,
images,
etc.
all sorts of I mean, like I took the attitude I should have taken in college. Like I did take in college. I shouldn't have taken it in the NFL.
Okay.
I played while having a broken shoulder.
Oh, jeez.
They ended up using that against me.
Interesting.
Saying like, look, he's healthy.
He did
practiced.
it. Yeah.
He did it. And I was like, yeah, I did it when you shot me up with cortisone and put 3 pads on my shoulder and then told me to go play.
The things you don't hear about in the NFL.
Oh, I was trying to make it. It was my 3rd year. I was spinning my tires. I was on my 3rd team. I just switched positions to tight end. And I was like, I have a lot to prove.
Yeah.
I can't just sit out in camp when I get hurt.
Yeah.
I should have sat out in camp and got paid. That's what I should have done.
I mean, that's what some of the best guys do. They just sit on the bench and get paid. All right. So give me, let me take a guess. Like was it a 6 or 7 figure amount, the final amount that you 6 figure amount.
Yeah.
Okay. So enough to, at this point, like when you start to cross over into potentially this entertainment space, you got, like, give me an idea of like how much runway you have with cash. Like, are you saying to yourself, I got $1 million, I'm going to give this a shot for 12 months, see what happens? Like, give me the business mindset of Colton there.
Yeah, it was very much, I set an amount and I told my dad, this is the amount that I'm investing in me. And I was like,
how much was it?
And
you can't say it. I got
$50,000.
Okay, cool.
I said, I have $50,000. If this doesn't work, and as soon as I run out of the 50, I'm coming back and I'm getting a sales job.
Wow.
And I actually turned down the week before I got the approval for Bachelorette. I turned down a dental implant sales position.
Wow.
That was offering me like $300,000. Like it should have been my career.
And your dad definitely kicked you in the head, right?
Oh, he was the one who
knowing your
set
dad,
it up.
he was
he helped set it up. It was a friend of his that was running it, and like I was like, this is it. And I'm like, this doesn't feel right. Like I want to try this. and I ended up, rolling the dice with my $50,000.
That is wild.
And
Okay.
I'm still rolling my dice.
And
with
you
my
are rolling,
$50,000.
a few more zeros at the end of that. All right, let me ask you this though. So before then, you're famously known before the Bachelorette for dating former gymnast Allie.
Yeah.
Don't want to get into the specifics there, but what I am curious is the business mindset. You go from practice player, you see some of the best players in the world in the locker room making all the millions of dollars, but you are an athlete, and that's what you've always been your whole life. When you start dating Allie, though, you're going to ESPYs. You're getting a little bit of that like entertainment life. You're getting a little sip of it. Right. Was any bit of that like attractive to you? Is that the part that maybe sparked? Because I've heard you on podcasts say like, I just really like this entertainment industry. Was that maybe part that like sparked it? Or tell me just a little bit about that. Did that change anything trajectory wise?
Not so much the lights, camera, action, but more so like the profession.
Tell me more.
Seeing how that whole group, like Simone, and how they all operated and carried themselves as like young athletes and professionals, that was motivating to me. Okay. It was really cool to see like, the deals that they were making, the commercials that they were a part of. Like, granted, they are gymnasts and athletes, and like they're really good at what they do. Yeah. But like the way that they handled everything, and also like, by the way, they were like going through one of the most heartbreaking stories in like our entire country, right? That is ever going to be out there,
and still performing at that level,
and still performing at that level with that pressure.
Oh my God!
So it was just it was more motivating than I would say. Like, I remember like even the first picture of like the first red carpet I ever walked, in that situation, and I was way out of my league on multiple fronts, but way out of my league.
Yeah. Okay.
I always end up where I'm not supposed to be. Like, I shouldn't have been on that carpet probably either, but like somehow I did.
Yeah. I mean, there is something about like when you get a little glimpse into people that are outliers at that level, run their life. You see a little bit about how much they make, and you learn about like their discipline. There's something that's like addicting and attracting to that. You're just like, I want that. I can be that. Or I can take little pieces of it and implement into my life, because those are what outliers do. So that happens. How does the actual show find you?
So I go through the breakup. It was hard. I was it was like it was weird. Like every time I reflect now and after therapy, I reflect after exiting a straight relationship, I went through this like, do I go back in or do I just like try to come out? Like that's sort of my deal making. I was like, I'm gonna go back in and try it again. And like maybe the next person will make me feel straighter. Like that was sort of my attitude there. I walk into 16th Street Mall in Denver. There's an open casting call because I'd watched the show. Yeah. There's an open casting call for Bachelor.
So real quick. When you watch the show, who was your favorite lead?
I mean, I liked Ben.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't like?
But I also like Chris Soules. I liked all. Like there was a bunch of good ones.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Chris is from. I know he's not, but I think he's from Denver.
Yeah. There's plenty. But
so anyway, you walk into it.
I walk into it, and like I'm like looking around. I'm like, am I supposed to be here? And like within a second, they were like, yes, you are, and like had me in front. Like I skipped all the lines. I was like, what is going on here? Yeah. And they had me in front of a camera and mic'd up in a matter of like minutes. And I'm sitting in the chair and they're like, talk to us. And I just like shot the shit with this dude for like 45 minutes. And then like, the next thing I know, there's like emails coming in and like everything's moving forward. Yeah. And I'm on a plane to LA. Unbelievable.
All right. So much time has passed. You've had so much success since then. And I think once you've kind of found yourself and you find success in your area, it's easier to be more honest with a question like this. When you signed up for the Bachelorette, it all was the intention to be the lead, like to take this to the top.
Me?
Yeah.
I had no. That I shouldn't. I wouldn't say that I signed the Bachelorette contract thinking I was going to be at the top. Okay. Obviously, as you enter that house with all these guys, your competitive juices start flowing.
Oh yeah.
Not only for like love, but like then everything starts.
Everything starts. It becomes Survivor.
Right. And that's something like we bonded over too. Is this
totally.
And also why I think like Pete did so well at Traders. Like what I said, so Jordan said to me, and I'm going to get off on a side tangent here because I know you just had Pete on.
Just had Pete on, yeah.
Jordan looked at me and goes, how is Pete so good at this game? And I said, we paused it, and I was like, so here's the thing. He's playing against game players and reality shows. The Bachelor, he was playing game strategy. If I'm at least taking my position, and I think Pete's similar to me. Yep. Pete played game strategy against production.
100%.
When you have to
play with and against them.
With and against them.
Yeah. 100%.
So like all these game players, look, I love CT, love Bananas, respect their game. We would run circles around them when it comes to game strategy around a production. Because like you have so many producers trying to produce you, trying to produce the women around you to make this show that you're thinking 12 steps ahead.
Yeah.
So like the fact that like Pete did really well,
no
shock me
shocker
at all.
No, and I think any lead, anybody, this is what my comment was in the recap of that episode. I said any lead or anybody from that franchise that has figured out a way to entrepreneurial do something after the show as a launch pad in this crazy world would go on any of the, like you see it, Special Forces, Bachelor wins.
Right.
Dancing with the Stars, Bachelor wins.
Right.
Traders, Peter's the MVP. Like I'm telling you, there's so much
that franchise makes beasts.
Yeah.
And it's
It does. I remember, like, I have a lot of book smarts. I learned a lot of my street smarts from you. And I'll never forget, first night you and I are sitting there and it's like 3 a.m. We still haven't talked to Becca. And I'm panicking. I'm like, dude, like I did not come this far to not get past night 1. Yeah. And you're like, I think we're good. You and I strategized, speaking of that, to get one of the producers, I think it was Bill at the time. And we're like, listen, talk to us. Like, what do we, and he goes, you two, you're fine. You know, remember that?
Like,
He's like, you guys are fine.
Look at you two.
Yeah, he goes, you're good. We're like, we are? And you're like, you're good. And it was from that point on, I was like, all right, Colton is going to be the guy. We bonded, but also I'm like, you are super smart. And I was like, I got to follow your lead. Then I started to see all this stuff. Like, I'll never forget this as long as I live. Like week 2, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you had a bag from one of your stylists sent to the house. Bro, I had like American Eagle shirts and Gap shirts. And I'm like, this guy is a stylist.
I styled the entire
I wore everything you had, even though it was like 4 sizes too big. My one-on-one date, literally that jacket, by the way, I still have it. It was from your stylist.
At one rose ceremony, I looked at him, I was like, if I go home, there's 7 of my suits right now that I'm not getting back.
It's unbelievable.
But yeah, I had a stylist mail me at a certain week more clothes.
How did you get the mansion's address? You just
Googled
they
only let you take 2 suitcases.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need more than this. So I was like, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have my stylist mail a box. Like that's sort of, I was like thinking ahead. I was like, I'll probably be on this show for a while, so I'm going to need more clothes.
Now, in my defense, that was like Buffalo Banker Jason. If I went on a show now, not only would I have a stylist send it, I'd already have brand deals lined up before I went on the show, right? And you had steps ahead. So like, tell me like the business side of Cole, like was that part of it? Like because you also remember you had a wine company. Yeah. Your wine was sent there too. Like give me like the business side here.
Well, the wine was all for my nonprofit. Which, by the way, like, the nonprofit that I set up, you know, people had opinions on that too. I was like, I set that up in Illinois as like a regional charity to support the Children's Hospital. It was never designed or built to have the infrastructure for like a national foundation. Mm-hmm. So we had a lot of catching up to do right away. Yeah. But yeah, and I think like that was great, but I didn't really set up brand deals. I did know that I wanted a stylist. One, because like once you see yourself on a red carpet and you're like, that's not it. You're like, I need to get help. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I knew that I needed to get help with some looks. Yeah. Well, you nailed the looks. You nailed the looks. You nailed the game. You nailed the show. And I remember us just being, I kind of be like, dude, I haven't gotten one of these group date roses. And you came back from, I think it was like week 6 or 7. You and I are sitting in, and you just got it. You're taking it off in the bathroom. You're like, this isn't good, man. I'm like, what? I'm like, what? You go, I got another group date rose. I was like, yeah, what's the problem, bud? I haven't got one. And I remember you saying like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if, I don't think I could do this, like, with her down the, like, I don't think this is my girl. Like, you were confused in the bathroom, you and I, lights, camera off, just saying, like, I don't know what the hell to do because I feel like I'm going to win. I had the whole Tia card, too.
But because I know you had the Tia card going into it, but they addressed that week too. You and I sat down, remember that? Yeah. But by week 6, you, at least in this moment, thought there was a chance you might end up with Becca, and you're like, shit, I don't know if I'm ready for this. And I always ask myself, was that more like Colton gameplay, like I want to make it to the end and be the Bachelor, or was that more like, were you dealing with some of the things that you've dealt with about being straight, being gay? You didn't know if like you were really actually into her. Like what side of that was?
That's a good question. I really don't know. Maybe I think deep down my subconscious always protected me. Yeah. So some way, somehow, like it always sort of steered me back to my true and authentic self. However that looked, whether it was disastrous and like not healthy or good for me, or like just like little simple course corrections, right?
Yeah.
And I definitely think there's moments where like that was popping up where I'm like, but I wanted to be straight so bad.
Yeah.
So like I wanted to end, like, look, I wanted to end up with her.
Yeah.
So then like maybe this is going to force my hand to get engaged. And once I'm engaged, then maybe I'll feel like this is it.
This is it. Okay. So it's this constant battle of the next thing will give me the clarity.
Correct.
Okay. So it's a
really toxic approach.
Yeah. Well,
but
listen,
when it's like your survival mechanism,
and
you're as deep in the closet as I already was, just between everything that I had in my life, like there was no turning back.
You had mentioned what Simone and Allie had been dealing with outside of their professional success. I don't know that you would even want to compare the two, but clearly you were dealing with a lot mentally. But it's interesting, you were still having so much success in everything you did, even the Bachelor, all the things you did. Is there something there about the way you protected and safeguarded, like you put the wall up so almost all your focus was only on work? Because it feels from the outside, you had so much success while you were dealing, especially in this 2018-19 timeframe, while you were dealing with so much internal disarray.
Yeah, that's definitely accurate. I think that I definitely compartmentalized a lot of my life, but the one thing that always was a through was my work and how I approach things. And like I've said this a couple times, but like I was never the most athletic, never the most talented, but I always worked the hardest. Yeah. And like even if I'm not the best or most talented in a room, I'll still still find a way to get the job because like I'll work harder than the people around me. Yeah. That was sort of just my attitude and how I took it. But I actually I'm not a woo-woo guy. Yeah. Okay. I went to an energy healer. Okay. Like recently? Recently. Okay. And here's what happened. I sort of told him some stuff that was going on, and he looked at me and goes, "You have daddy issues." Huh. Not in the way that like it gets thrown around. Yeah. Like daddy issues. Yeah. He goes, "You grew up in the Catholic Church. Say the Lord's Prayer." And I said, "Our Father." And he goes, "Stop, Father." I was like, "Okay." And he goes, "You have learned your entire life that Father is almighty. And Father does not just represent your dad. It represents your coaches, the producers, all these people. So anytime you face conflict, you know not to fight against Father. So your body has always been in a constant state of when it enters fight or flight to fly. So you're always on to the next thing. You never confront your father. So you never confront authority. You never go against who that is. So you're in a constant. So like, it makes sense that like once I was done with the Bachelor franchise, I just turned my back on it, burned it down, like we're trying to get out of it and just flew on to the next thing. Yeah. That's sort of been the story of my life with like NFL, with that, like I'm just on to the next and I'm always in a state of flight. Interesting. I just thought it was such a great perspective, like whether it was accurate or not, like I don't know, it helped me. Yeah. It felt cool to do. Yeah. And I think there was something there. Well, I think that even ties into the question I asked, which is like when faced with some of those predicaments, you just kept flying, and your flying was, get your rose, do your thing, like be the best. You're the best on the show. I'm always on. You're on to the next one. On to the next one. Yeah. One of the things though, okay, I'm going to dig even a little deeper there, because one of the things that I was like, I would always take from you, because I learned it from you, was you were so good with production and the higher ups. You were like the best. You were the most beloved and loved. But you're also good at like finding different things out. Do you remember when we were on, I'll never forget, we would go to the treadmills to work out. Oh yeah. And then you figured out how it was connected to the internet, and you were able to look up like things that we needed to know. Yeah. I took that, and in hometowns, I did that like 4 times. Yeah. Like I was like getting emails from people like, run. I mean, that's the old ellipticals and treadmills had the Twitter you can log into. The Twitter. And I was like messaging my family from my NASA, Twitter you were like hitting your family up. I'm like, dude, you see anything? You're like, I don't know. I ended up getting caught too. Yeah, like I remember you got sniped. They like flagged it to production. Yeah. But you know what? The rest is history. Yeah. I got a question for you that relates to in my book, Talk Money to Me. I talk about contracts all the time. Yeah. I could be right. I could be wrong. You could say pass here if you don't want to deal with this. Great. But my understanding
was, and I think it's one of the smartest moves I've ever heard anyone make in any contract. My understanding is that in the contract, there's some type of liability risk of which you could be sued up to, and you got an insurance protection. So if you were sued up to that amount, you had insurance, so you were covered.
Yeah.
True, false, pass.
True.
Okay.
I have multiple policies
you're a genius.
and ways to protect myself. Through umbrella, through life, through so many different things.
Do you think that strategy connects to exactly what you just said about like the fatherhood, like like protection against
totally.
the fatherhood? So like you were always in defense of the people at the top that had the control?
I think there was a mix of that, and I also think there's a mix of like there was a legitimate most of the time if production ever sues talent, they know that they're going to win.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
My guess is the reason why they never like really pursued me is because I had a good stable of lawyers ready to go.
Yeah.
And like they just knew that like I was at least savvy enough to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I had loopholes. I mean, that was like like I said, I was never always the most talented.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have been in many situations that I've been in, but I always put myself in the best position possible once I was there to like succeed or have, do a good job.
Yeah. And there's another, like I've learned so many business lessons for you that I continue to carry forward. One of the biggest ones was, and we've talked about it, and I think you've talked about it, I've heard you talk about it on podcasts too, is when we were interviewed for The Bachelor. Yeah. So me, you, and Blake are interviewed. And I remember exactly what I did. I went in there. I'm going to tell them everything they want to hear. I'm going to be the boring vanilla guy. I'm here for love, right? Yeah. And I'll never forget when you told them, listen, Blake and Jason, I'd want to grab a beer with them too. You want a good show? I'm your guy. There is so much that people back home can listen to and learn from that, because when you're interviewing for a job, if someone's selling medical devices, like a job you almost took, insurance, you have to know the people that you're talking to. You have to know how to create value for them and stop trying to be something you think they want to be, but be the best version of yourself at that time for the value they need to hear. Yeah. All those people there, they didn't give a shit if I wanted to be married and happy with kids. They need a good TV show. Yeah. And like, I wanted to see,
they needed a $70 million profit.
They needed.
That's what they wanted.
Is that like, was that part of the thing they said?
No, I mean, I don't know what the exact numbers were. I knew it did my season did really well for them profitability wise, but look, you're walking into Fleiss's door into his office. Yeah. Which, by the way, I don't know if you paid attention when you walked through it or if you were just nervous and didn't. He had that door custom made, flew in.
Wait, really?
You never noticed his door?
Dude, see, this is why I want to hang out with you all the time. You know everything.
You can't walk like this man's like office and just like how he presents himself. I mean, you guys get a glimpse of him on Twitter. I walked into that meeting and like kicked my shoes off and threw my feet on his desk and I was like, let's go.
Wait, that's what he did to me. When I walked in, he kicked his sandal. He wore sandals.
Well, that's the problem. You let him do it. You didn't do it.
See, dude, I'm still learning from you all these years later.
It wasn't.
And he had those glasses.
Exactly like that. Yeah,
those glasses you can't see through, and his vape, and he didn't look. He didn't look at me once.
I think there was a part of me that thought like, because he was a big Chargers fan too. So like immediately I'm like, yo, did you call Telesco, the GM? Yeah. And I was like, what he said, like, is he excited for me?
Yeah.
Like something like that. Like we were shooting the shit off that. Alon and Bennett were there. It just was like, and it was very much like this on the couch chilling, just being like, let's do this. Yeah. It didn't feel like a business meeting. It didn't feel like an interview. Yeah. It was just sort of like a fun, like, I'm going to go like walk into this dude's office and be like, let's go.
Yeah. I was scared shitless, nervous. And I think they're probably the most boring guy ever. All right. But I want to bring this back to the listening base. Yeah. You're very skilled at that. Obviously you're observant and even seeing the door. You kind of mirror his behavior. For people back home that don't have that confidence or don't even know how to prepare for stuff like that, what is some advice you'd give them, whether it's an interview, it's a sales pitch, maybe it's even a date, like some of those things to be like, no, I am going to be here and I'm going to do my best so they see the best version of me?
Well, there's this saying called, and it goes like, fake it till you make it. Yeah. I don't like that exactly because like it catches up to you. I mean, like, look, it caught up with me at one point too, because like I was trying to be somebody I wasn't. Sure. But always trying your hardest and like preparing as much as you can, and just like also having like the self-awareness to know what your weaknesses are. Yeah. Like, I didn't have you know, the smoothness that maybe you did, or like the authenticity that sort of Blake had. And you guys, I was never trying to be Jason or Blake when I entered that room.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is what I'm good at. This is like who I am. So I leaned into that. So I think it's like not so much of like fake it till you make it, but it's like really just like what makes you good, and hyper focus on that and bring that to the table, because like that's what got you into this position in the first place.
Yeah, I love like so finding what differentiates you and just lay into that.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
and obviously a lot.
I have to find a picture of this door to show you.
I got to see the door. I remember it like yesterday.
I think
walking
it was
in.
like they even did an article on it. I want to say
the door. I remember like I could paint you the entire, because I think when you have these like, I don't want to say trigger moments, but these like really important moments of your life that are just so outlying, like you always remember. I remember the door, but I would never remember it was special. That office, I could paint you a picture.
I want to say, I don't want to misspeak.
Yeah.
I'm almost 90% sure it was the door. It might have been the desk. There was one. All I know is like there was something so crazy that I asked one of the producers, like, "What is the deal with this?" And like he had it flown in, or something like to that extent. And I was like, okay, like this man means business. So like, let's do it.
There's things to take away from that. That is good stuff.
Yeah.
The other thing too, I got to bring up, because you and I talked about in Savannah Chrisley's podcast. You and I were buddies after the show. Becca Tilley was doing a non-for-profit. I don't know if you remember this. She was doing like a non-for-profit. It was like a can. She was like fundraising for like getting cans and giving them back to like one of the food shelters. And you're like, we got to go. I think you said at the time you had a crush on Becca. I was like, all right, let's go. We stayed at my brother's place. Now, you know, my brother's gay and married. You left that weekend and he was like, you know, he's gay, right? And I was like, wait, you're not talking about Colton? And my brother's like, yeah. And I was like, no, he's not. And he's like, yeah, he is. And I'm like, no, I'm just like, okay, my brother's doing like brother things. Do you like, did you think you like, did you know you were gay at that point? Were you certain? Were you still fighting it? Like, and then it's like gaydar. I'm like, how did he know that?
Oh, gay men terrified me when I was in the closet.
Why? Because they could just like see right through it.
Yeah. I mean, yes, that. And I think there was like, obviously there would be emotions that would come up within me when I saw somebody living an out life. Yeah. That I'd be like, oh, I can never have that. However those emotions presented themselves. Yeah. I always knew, but I also like thought that there was a pathway for me to just become straight. Like I bought that version of like, you know, all the way from like trying to pray and end it with like, I don't want to be gay. Like there's so many things that I leaned into. Yeah. But yeah, gay men scared me. I would say I knew, and it's sort of LOL now with Becca coming out and finding her love and happiness too. I'm like, oh, we could have had like an arrangement in our straight life.
That's interesting. All right, well, thank you for sharing that. And Steve, you were right. You nailed it. All right, so you go on The Bachelor. We know that spoiler. I'll still never forget me, you, Blake. We're all on one group text. They tell us Labor Day. We're going to call one of you guys tomorrow, and you will be the guy. They call you. You're the guy. You have a great season. Yep. Ratings off the charts. Let's fast forward through Bachelor stuff, but let's talk about a little bit of business after The Bachelor. Yeah. You were very intelligent with how you navigated your business. You know, you were one of the only Bachelors that were able to turn a book at the speed you did after your season and become a New York Times bestseller, selling probably, if I had to guess, the most units of books ever been sold from a former Bachelor. Yeah. And I think even with like your branding strategy and brand deals, monetization, you did it differently, but I've never got a glimpse into that. So whatever you're comfortable with sharing, like how much did you make compared to the NFL? What was part of your strategy? Tell me about the business side of Colton when the show's over and you have all that momentum.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think I showed you some numbers. Like I've made 100x plus what I made in the NFL, like off of
You were making millions off when you finished the show.
Yeah. But I also like the reason why I think there was a lot of tension between me and The Bachelor was never, there was some on camera. They gave me like, look, I hate even saying it gave me the edit because like you're the one who's in front of camera. Like it's really hard to edit somebody to look really, really bad when they did really like when they were authentic and like who they were and how they handled things. Yeah. I never had like beef with that. There was some things behind the scenes that happened. And then also just like contractually, I would never sign that Bachelor contract again. I mean, you got the same ones you knew too. Like there's a tail on it and like they get to approve some of your deals. Like I bet I left north of 4 or 5 million on the table because of my contract. The one that really ticked me off was I was in talks with Halo Top.
Oh, yeah,
Ice cream.
yeah. Nick did
And
that.
So
Okay.
you see where I'm going with this.
I see.
I was in talks with them to do a social media campaign and possibly like a commercial with it. And my agent was negotiating it. We were in talks and like we submitted it to ABC for approval.
Okay.
All of a sudden it goes cold on my agent's end, and like we followed up and they're like, hey, we're actually going to go in a different direction. Like, so weird. Like they had like the deliverables, they had the contract, they had the price, they had all this game plan. And then all of a sudden they're like going in a different direction. I get to my finale of my season. Like, hey, like we want like the shower scenes were a big hit for everybody. It's like, hey, we want to like film a mock shower scene.
Yeah, we have Ken the Barbie doll. We're doing this
So
shower
I'm in the
scene.
green room at like the live stage, and I'm hopping in this shower. I have camera. I'm like faking my shower, and they're like, hey, hold this. I'm like, they're like, what? And he handed me a Halo Top. And immediately I got hot, and I was like, this is where the deal went. And they product integrated into my finale with Halo Top, and then they booked Nick to do the commercial. So that ABC, like, obviously, look,
Smart.
they're smart. That's in the contract. I
Yeah.
signed it. I
Yeah.
shouldn't be I'm not mad at like
Yeah.
them, but I was just like, oh, that was dirty.
You feel like you got out, like they
They
got you
they
there.
probably they made the money that I was supposed to make, but then they product integrated it and then used my likeness because they could, because they had the green light in my contract.
And honestly, at this point, like, while it ticks you off from a business leadership
From a
perspective,
business, I'm like,
touche.
genius.
All right, but you move on. You're making a ton of money. Things are going well. I don't want to get into the specifics of everything, but you have your rock bottom moment.
Yes.
You've talked about it. You've taken accountability for it, and all that happens. How does that, and you've talked about the mental aspect of that as well.
Yep.
I also have to imagine a lot of this stuff with NIL is connected to like credibility, likeness, and like what's happening. How bad does a setback of that nature impact your business and like just even the monetization and like income flow? It's I would imagine that has a huge impact, of course, mentally first, but also from a business perspective too.
I wasn't at that point. I was doing well enough to be mainly just concerned for my life.
Okay.
Like, just speaking
It's
transparently.
it was just so much deeper than that. You're not even
Once you
thinking.
have that type of experience that I had, like that was really, really bad.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just, there was one night in particular that was like the worst,
Yeah.
but it was going on a few weeks of just like
Yeah.
really, really abusive medication, that I was like abusing my medication to a point where it's like was not healthy. And like, I shouldn't have been, I wasn't in my right mind to do anything. So once you have the perspective of like your life, it just like, I truly wasn't worried about money. And also like at that point I'd left LA. I went and moved back in with my dad. I gave him my medications. I was seeing a psychologist and a therapist 2 times a week. Like I was like fighting for my life of like just basically being like, I have to figure this out. Even when I was doing that, I didn't even come out.
Wow.
Like when I asked for help, even from that psychologist and that therapist, I didn't tell them what was going on.
Wow. So people back home, if they're hitting rock bottom, or they've hit rock bottom in a standpoint that people still label or characterize for something that happened, and they need to work on growing and changing so they're not that person, whether it's professionally, financially, or personally.
Yeah.
Being there and having done it yourself and grown from it and have become the man you are today, what advice would you have for those people?
Even if you feel like you don't have a support system, lean on like that one person that you think might be there for you.
Okay.
It's just like having that faith that you have somebody to support, even though like I know even in my darkest times, I was like, I don't have any support system in this. I can never do this. Like I don't have that team. I don't have that support. You do, you just don't understand it. And there's like this mental block. So like as soon as I sort of worked up the courage, I told my publicist first because he was dealing with like photos and stuff. And then I dealt with my professional team. I had to tell them.
Yeah.
And then I came out to my family.
Yeah.
And it just was like, really, it was like you get the confidence after you tell like the first couple people.
Yeah.
But it was a slow crawl back out. I'll say that.
Yeah.
And then like once I got out, I got kicked again. And then so it's like, it was tough.
And the thing I'm hearing, and tell me if I'm hearing this right, but it's like in that darkest, deepest, worst place of your life, like just find the smallest step forward and like get off that momentum, and then another step will come. But there is that step forward. There's someone you can step on to get that step. Just find it. That's what I'm hearing. It's kind of what I'm
you're not going to step into the light immediately. You're going to get closer to the light. And that's like your goal every day should just to like make that little hole, that light at the end of the tunnel a little bit bigger. A little bit bigger. And then as soon as like you get to the point where you're finally feeling, better, hopefully you're out and you're in that light.
Okay. And speaking of light, you got to that light, and then you were able to actually create a show through Netflix, Coming Out Colton, which is very supportive of the LGBTQIA community. And a question I have for you there is, with that, you had to really put some of your darkest times on blast after you're just come out of it and put it into a show. What was like the personal and the business balance and the decision of doing that?
Well, I just had to work through how I was going to own it. Like at this point, I ran from it for 28 years, 29 years of my life.
Yeah.
And I had on multiple occasions said I'm not gay and or alluded to even in my book, I like had a sentence in there saying like, I am not gay. Like I addressed my sexuality in my book when I'd, probably shouldn't have. And I just, like the backstory there though was like that production company was already in talks with me for another project in which when I took my mental health break and like moved back in my crisis, and I sort of backed out of, but it was led by two gay men who sort of knew enough to know what was going on, similar to your brother.
Okay.
They were like, okay, we have an idea, but then like I dropped out and like was like, I can't do this project anymore. And then they reapproached me and were like, let's, next time you're in LA, let's grab coffee. So we grabbed coffee, and they basically alluded to it, and I came out to them. I said, this is what I've been going through.
Sure.
Like, I don't know what to do right now. I don't know what's next. I don't know like what I have to do. And they're like, we'll get right back to you. And then they were like, Netflix wants to talk to you. So like, once I talked to Netflix, everything was like immediately in, going.
Yeah.
But there was a lot that we had to sort of sort through just because I had so much distrust of like reality TV.
Oh, of course. Yeah. So but personally, I want to hear for the personal reason you do it, because you're like, I needed to, I had a story. Let's tell the story. Let's do it in a fashion which it can make as much impact. Is that the personal side of doing it?
No, the personal side was because it held me accountable to have those conversations.
Interesting. Filming it forced you to do it.
Yeah, because I know like in this scene I'm coming out to my dad. In this scene I'm coming out to my mom. It forced my hand to actually come out on camera.
Interesting.
Because then like I had a crew, I had a schedule. It was like, call it whatever you want. People's coming out experiences are different.
Yeah.
I knew like it helped in my coming out experience to know that like in a certain scene I was coming out to my dad and I had to have this conversation.
Right. And it's like things like that, when you step into it, it accelerates getting to your place of happiness where you're at now. Yeah. We're going to get to that in just a minute. Talk to me about the business side of the show. Like, when you do a Netflix show, can you own rights to it? Is it just a talent fee? Like, how does business of doing a show that's your own on Netflix work? Well,
I told you earlier, I would never sign the same contract that I signed as a bachelor. And I took that into that.
Okay, fair.
I was an executive producer on the show. And that was like one of the main things at the very beginning before we even engaged was this like, this is my life, my story. Like I've been through a lot, like let's do this together. And I will say to their credit, it was one of the best experiences in my professional career.
On just from like the process or like the
whole
money,
Netflix team,
just everything.
Money, no.
Okay.
I think like,
so it's not a money play.
Something I could comfortably say is you take a haircut on the finances when you go to Netflix.
Okay.
And like
we'll
I
leave
understood
it at
that.
Okay.
Like their reach is greater than any other streaming service that like they don't have to offer you the top dollars. Like, and once again, people don't get excited about the $100,000 that comes with The Bachelor. They get excited about like after, like, they have a chance to find love. And then also they have all these fun, crazy, cool experiences.
We talked about I'm pretty sure you and I both talked about doing reverse negotiating. At least I did. I didn't do it, but I was really considering because the offer's $100,000. I've talked about that a lot. And I said, I was going to say, don't pay me anything because the value of that screen time and everything's millions. Like, who cares about the $100,000? Right. So your thought process was Netflix, take a haircut on what payment comes in. I'm going to make an impact. I'm going to be forced to come out to the people I love. And on top of it, it's going to be, I'm an executive producer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, once again, the content of that show, it was like me coming, I wasn't really thinking about the money. I had the understanding I had to get out of like this whole personally that I was in of like owning my shit for the first time and also like reintroducing myself in public and be like, this is who I am. This is why I did what I did. This is what my process was. And like, this is me. Like in a way that like I was still figuring it out as we were filming.
Wow. So interesting.
Yeah.
Well, up until that point, you have probably the most wild track and wild resume of anybody that touches reality TV, from your stories as an NFL player through the Bachelor franchise to your coming out Colton on Netflix. And you have built a celebrity status and a brand that is unlike anybody that's ever come in the 20 years from the franchise. So I'm going to get into Jordan and your fertility story now, and I'm excited about that. But I want to make sure I address this business-wise. Where do you go? Like, you got your own Netflix show. You were one of the best bachelors of all time. Ratings were off the charts. You're making your millions at this point. You had a huge, huge growing pain you learned from, overcame, took ownership, and are a new person. Where is it? Do you think like more reality TV? Do you go to acting? Do you get into ownership? What's like the business process from this point on?
The thing that I was just talking to somebody, and at the end of the day, if I had like use words to describe me, it would be like storyteller. And the first story that I had to tell was my own. So once that's now out of the way, I have an opportunity now to like tell other stories. And that's sort of what I'm doing with my production company, is working with other humans out there, and just doing different unscripted shows. I have a scripted project. I have a documentary that I've been, producing and developing.
Wow.
So there's a handful of things that I have and I'm building on the back end, just because my Netflix show wasn't the most well received right when it first got announced. There was obviously some blips and people had opinions and everything. And I remember, people were calling for me to like donate my talent fee. And I was like, I don't even know if I'm in like the top 100 paid off of this project. And you're asking me to make this contribution? Like, I think that it's just, there's so much more to be done on the back end that excites me, just from a creative standpoint, but also just longevity in this career. So like, I'm not going to go back on, like, I can't ever at this point go back on like a reality type format. Like it wouldn't feel right.
Like even like a competition show.
Oh, I would do
Traders?
competition shows.
Okay. So you would do
day.
those.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
I'll always be a competitor.
Yeah.
So like that.
Yeah.
And I always don't like to, I don't like to speak in definitives either, because like people like to hold you to whatever you say. So it's like, if I say I'll never do that, it's like, something's going to
people shouldn't hold after learning this through therapy. You shouldn't hold people to absolutes, because that's suggesting they
people
grow.
change.
People change.
Yeah.
People grow.
So anyway, I would definitely do competition shows. So I'm having fun and I'm enjoying building shows right now, and I'm enjoying telling other people's stories. I'm enjoying the experience that I have and like helping other people through it.
Yeah.
Like, I made a lot of mistakes in my entertainment career so far, and I've only been in it for a few years.
Yeah.
But like, I'm going to try to put my best foot forward.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so now I'm going to play devil's advocate. I'm going to defend the producers a little bit. So now the idea is you were the main character.
Right.
You worked with producers, and now you're going to go into production.
Mm-hmm.
How does that make you feel? Like, do you have any bit of do you find any bit of like, okay, wait, there's a little hypocrisy. I'm dogging on these producers, but now I'm a producer, or are you taking a different angle? Like, tell me about that.
Yeah. So one thing we're doing different is, all of our unscripted content that we make, the talent gets free therapy for a year after the show. I think that just stems from my own personal stuff. I needed help. I didn't get it. I didn't have access to it. I was sort of shamed when it came to it in a way.
Yeah.
Anytime I wanted to talk to the therapist, like, why don't you go sit in for a confessional? I'm like,
Yeah.
no, not the same thing.
I need a professional.
So that's one change that I'm making
Cool.
that I think should be standard in most production agreements now, because like you're blowing these people's lives up in many ways.
Yeah.
Like, you're making them rich,
Good
you're making
and
them
bad.
famous,
Yeah.
but then also you're giving them anxiety, depression. Like
Sure.
you're setting them up for bad habits if you don't protect them.
Yeah.
So that's one thing we're doing. And then two,
That's cool.
I'm just really working right now. My goal, and like if I had like a summary of like what As Best Friend Productions is, it is bridging our country. The content that we put out, I'm trying to unify and be positive and uplifting, but also introducing new characters to people in towns that might not have that exposure.
Wow.
So there's a lot of towns out there in a lot of different states that are cultural deserts.
Oh, yeah.
So like they don't see a black person. They don't see a queer person. They don't know what it means to be transgender or gay, or they don't have that representation.
Right.
But when they turn on a show, they have an opportunity. And so for me, it's like, how do we do this in a way that feels like they can understand that character and what they're going through?
Yeah.
So
it's really cool how you're using experiences to now be behind the camera, produce things that are impactful to visibility people need to see.
Yeah.
And tying it back to the podcast, Trading Secrets, I'm making an assumption, but I have to assume when you're on the production side and you own the shows, the upside's got to be massive, right?
Yeah. Way more than the talent fee.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so there's also, so you're doing all these things that like are great, and there's change that has to happen, but it also is a hell of a business plan too.
Well, hell of a business plan, and you don't have to have the stress that comes with being on TV anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I think people are like, oh, how fun was that? I'm like, yeah, the anxiety that I had every Monday night when I turned that show on, not knowing what I said or what the mics picked up or what was caught.
Yeah.
Like, they don't give you they give you, as the lead, they give you a couple screeners here and there.
Yeah. And the feedback, like that was one thing, like just like the comments, the DMs, like you're not prepared for like a tidal wave of either good or bad to just come at your plate, and it totally in all different ways messes you up. So
it definitely, and the longevity, like people, people who still are like, you're 15 minutes of fame. It's like, I've been doing this for a few years now. Like, it's not, and I'm not seeking that, but like, I do want to have I love the entertainment business.
Yeah. It is so much fun.
It's like a hustle. It's a grind. It's like
nothing moves. Like you talk about selling, like you almost did devices like that. There's a high of selling the device going into the surgery.
It's sales. You're selling yourself.
Yeah. There is no high like the entertainment industry and the speed at which it goes.
Right.
But the speed at which it goes away. Like it's if you're a game player, it's a wild game.
Right.
See,
that's some of my problem with some of the people from reality and even our franchise.
Yeah.
They get that. So what they do is they start their podcast, they go on their red carpets, and they run their mouth, saying things that they actually don't really believe, and or as soon as they get off that red carpet are going to text that person and be like, so sorry I did this. And it's like they're playing that game. Yeah. And I'm just like, what? Yeah. Why are you doing? Like, what are you doing?
You're like, I am the game. You're like, I have
to deal with this now.
Yeah, I have to do this. So, and I will take ownership. I fell for that once with Colton.
There was a few.
We had a talk. I think it was just once or twice.
No, not you.
No, but I did one. I did once.
Yeah.
I did once. I said something I shouldn't have said in an interview when I was asked. It was about our relationship. I was triggered because we weren't friends anymore. And Colton and I had to have a heart to heart. So I usually don't typically do that.
And like that was, but
that's not
while we're on this, there's, that was like the one thing as I was working through this is the dog pile mentality is a very real thing. And I think it's easy for people just to like, when they see somebody down, it's easy to just jump on the dog pile and like kick them while they're down and, or just, it's easy clickbait. It's easy, whatever you want to call it. But like there was a lot that like, there is always, and I have such an appreciation now for people who are going through a hard time. Yeah. Because like, I'm sure there's shit in the media right now with you. And like, that is not true. Yeah. Oh, and you're like, do I fight this? Do I own it? Do I own part of it? Do I not fight? Like, you have to make so many decisions. That's why like, even like the comments, like I have to be calculated in my life. Yeah. If I'm not, I'm going to be hurt. Yeah. So like, you have to calculate a certain degree to prepare yourself, to protect yourself too. Yeah. Like the reason why I'm calculated is because I have to protect my mind. I have to protect my body. I have to protect who I am.
Totally.
So like that's why I'll always go to bat and say like, fair statement.
Yeah.
But it's not for the reasons that like maybe most of
malicious
the public thought.
or yeah. And I also think ever since I said that comment, I always took it back because I think calculated has such a negative connotation, and I've been called calculated often, but sometimes, like you said, calculated is literally just the process of like, I don't know, trying to defend and like create a safe place for yourself, right? Like sometimes it's just creating safety.
Right.
It's not the intent to hurt others or do anything else. It's just literally creating safety. Yeah. And so there's something there.
And a game plan.
And a game plan. Yeah. I also noticed real quick, I'll say this, and then I want to quickly get to your fertility because I know your time is limited here. But the idea, I think a lot of people come off the show and then, or any show, and they get this quick hit of fame and they lose sight of who they are and where they were 6 months ago. And they think they're the next George Clooney or Leonardo DiCaprio. And then they don't want to like put in the work or do the things you have to do. And then they create this ego. And then 6 months later, it's all gone and nothing's there. Like that's a real common thing too. So this space is a wild space. We talk about it often on this podcast, but it's always interesting to hear from you, Colt. But Colt, you have a new journey in your life on top of now being owner of a production company. I can't wait to see some of your work. But I had read that you have worked with a 9-person medical team, lawyers, an egg donor, and a surrogate to go through the whole process of fertility to now become full circle, the father, the figure that you have worked so hard to understand, get to know, and now fill into that role and maybe do things differently for your son or daughter. Talk to me a little bit about this process. When I was reading 9-person medical team, lawyers, egg donor, and surrogate, this, my brain, I'm just like time and money.
I mean, more now. Every week there's a new extension or person added into it.
So go through this. So I assume step one, get your sperm tested to see if the sperm is healthy. Is that correct?
Yeah, everybody. And I'm a big advocate for this. Right now, when the word IVF comes up, you think of it as last resort.
Yes.
Or, oh shit, they had to do IVF.
Yeah, they're going through IVF.
How I challenge people is IVF should be viewed as preventative medicine. Testing your sperm, you should do at 20. You should freeze your sperm at 20. You don't know what's going to happen. Like our military freezes their sperm.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Like there's a lot of people who are at risk and or doing certain jobs that have to freeze their sperm.
Oh my God. I want to go freeze I got my sperm tested recently. Numbers were great. I was thrilled about it, but I should freeze my sperm.
Freeze your sperm. I would advocate all of the men out there that want to be fathers.
Okay.
Get your sperm tested. If the numbers are good and or great, freeze it. You can always like come back. Like you don't know what's going to happen in your life. Like, and I mean this all the way down to like, what just happened in Alabama with the IVF ruling.
Yeah.
What people don't realize is anybody who battles cancer and childhood cancer, they have to have their eggs taken out and frozen. They have to like going through
I didn't know that.
radiation and chemo sterilizes you. Wow. So like there are other health factors that go into it. My case and why I struggled with my sperm was through testosterone and other lifestyle activities that I was partaking in.
Yeah.
But I'm a huge advocate for freezing your sperm. There's an at-home, not to like plug into it, there's an at-home sperm testing kit called Legacy Sperm. That's great. Okay. So easy.
Okay.
Like in, out, boom, done.
How much does it cost to freeze your sperm?
A couple $100.
Okay. So it's affordable to do.
Once again, pretty affordable.
Okay.
You can't put a price tag on your kids.
You can't. Yeah.
That's just find a way to make it work.
Life.
That's what I tell you is like, we have to find a way to make it work.
Okay. So you go through the process. You suggest everyone gets their sperm frozen. You find out your sperm from testosterone and other stuff has some issues. What are some things, like how long is the process to get your sperm back to where it should be?
6 months.
6 months. And then I'm sure a whole medical process.
So when I got my results, Jordan got his and it was 55 million. Something like that, of like just a ton of sperm.
Yeah.
And I get mine in like 4. And 3 of them are dead.
You're like, what the hell?
I like looked at it. I was like, excuse me?
Yeah.
And he like moved on to the next topic. And I was like, we got to back up here. And we retested at 3 months after I stopped testosterone. I stopped a handful of things.
Okay.
I talk about it all in like one of the episodes on Daddyhood that's out right now.
Okay. Go listen to that. Check it out.
Everything that I like did to change that. Tested at the 3 month mark, trending in the right direction. Doctor's like, great, let's get it better.
Okay.
3 months later, 6 months now, I got it to where they wanted to freeze it.
Okay. So 6 months, got to where you wanted to.
Yep.
You're spending about $1,000 or so. Next process is you have to get an egg, right?
Yeah. But so you're doing them all simultaneously because right now there's a surrogate shortage and like there's a wait list, about a 6-month wait list for surrogates.
6-month wait list.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you do everything at once.
Yeah, we hired a concierge service to help connect us to everybody.
Okay. I got to ask the dollars and cents, and time for the whole package. What does this cost?
For just that donor concierge or for like all
surrogate,
in for fertility?
the dollar, like if you Google the average price for a surrogate, it's insane.
Yeah.
It's like a 6-figure dollar amount.
Wait, are we talking about like what stage? Just everything that we've done so far?
Yeah, like because I'm so lost at the stages and you're telling me you guys did it all at once. Like I know you obviously have to have an egg. There has to be fertilization. It then has to be, you have to have a surrogate. Like there's all these stages. Like what are the stages and what are the dollars like that you've had to spend on these stages?
Our baby will be equivalent to a vacation house or two at the end of the day.
Wow.
So it was a lot, and you have to start somewhere. Starting with a fertility lawyer is what I would like to say. So start with your fertility lawyer right after, get the lay of the land, grab an agency. So you have to go through an egg donor. Once you have your egg donor selected, you're still going through, at least we were still going through our surrogate and who that was going to be and what agency we were going through there. And like what people don't realize is like our doctor that we're using services 3 people. We are one of his patients, but then the egg donor is his patient and the surrogate is his patient. And we are. So he has 3 patients right off of the bat.
Wow.
In which for the most part, we're responsible for all those bills.
Oh my God. So
and none of our insurance covers it.
All out of pocket. A vacation home or 2 is a 7-figure dollar amount. Close to.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm talking about like down payment. More, I'm not buying my vacation homes in cash here, Jason. We're mortgaging them. Okay. But,
8% interest.
8%. I mean,
30 years.
Yeah, the interest rate's a little high now. I don't know if I would even go for a vacation home. But yeah, I would say right around just shy of $500,000.
My gosh.
To go through what we went through.
And how? So we know 6 months for the sperm. How about the other process? How long have you been going through this?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
And what's the most latest update?
The most latest update is that we're waiting for testing to come back from our surrogate to do like all of the transfers. We're doing like mock cycles and making sure everything's like lined up. Yeah. Because we only have 3 embryos. So we have 3 shots at this. And I say only in like the most appreciative way.
Of course.
We're blessed to have 3 embryos.
Yeah.
But you know, I have friends who have 20 in storage, right? And like they have 20 shots.
Yeah.
We on the other hand have 3. So it's like, how do we, we have to be a little more strategic or we have to go do another egg retrieval and
go through it all again.
Another
$500,000.
I'm like looking around like, when is this going to end?
Before you know it, Colton's like, I'm done with reality TV. He's like, all right, ABC, I'll be the Bachelor again.
Yeah, no shit.
$2 million.
God, Jordan, no, I can't do that to Jordan.
I'm kidding. I'm just having fun. Oh, that's good stuff. Well, Colt, congratulations on everything. Your full circle of life, your growth as a human, professionally, personally, obviously, financially, soon to be, knock on wood, fingers crossed, a father. It's been 7 years of knowing you, and there's been these highs and lows and lefts and rights. But from the day I met you, I gravitated towards you. I always learned from you. I'm continuing to learn from you, and I appreciate our friendship. I wish you the best, and it's been so much fun having you on Trading Secrets. Yeah. But you got to wrap with a trading secret. So you've had a wild journey. You've learned a lot through your days, and you've done a lot. And a trading secret is something you can't get in a textbook. You can't get in a YouTube or TikTok tutorial, only from Colton and your experience. So what trading secret can Colton Underwood leave us with?
I would just say the overall arc of this is going to be start somewhere. You have to start. You can't just like have it. And I mean that from as recent as what we were just talking about, my fertility journey. There's other paths to parenthood. Yeah. I'm speaking from a very privileged place where I have resources to spend to build my family. It's a choice I made, and I'm lucky to have that, and I'm appreciative of having that. There's other options. There's adoption. There's foster. Like you can go through. So we wanted to start somewhere. If you want a family, go down the path of exploring something that is right for you and that you can afford and that you can have. Same with your career. Like if you want to be on TV, start somewhere. Like look up an open casting call, walk in, try to like take your shot, and like you never know. So just like starting is a big deal. And that's also authentic to my life. Like, start somewhere if you need to come out. Start somewhere if you are trying to be the best version of you. You should get better. You know?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. You got to start somewhere. If you don't, there's no way to end up where you are. And even through your lessons, you starting somewhere, sometimes it was proactive in your initiative and your competition and your drive. And sometimes, like you did with your Netflix show, it's like you forced yourself with other people's push to start somewhere. But at the end of the day, all those things led to a theme of start somewhere. So that's a perfect way to wrap up this episode with Colton Underwood. Colton, I know you have so much going on with your legacy and your podcast and everything else. Where can people find each of those things?
At the Daddyhood Podcast on Instagram, at Colton Underwood, and at Colton's Legacy.
There we go.
Yeah.
We will be following along. Congratulations. And thank you for being on this episode of Trading Secrets.
There we go.